The United States and China are going to be rivals, but no one knows what the exact nature of that relationship is going to be. It might be competitive, but with large elements of cooperation, or it might be a deep and bitter rivalry with a high risk of war. To anticipate how relations will play out, we have to rely on international relations theory. My chapter examines 4 different approaches to international relations: realism, liberalism, social constructivism, and individual leadership, and identifies what each predicts about the future and what each prescribes for how the two states should handle their relationship. Because interests and policies change as power shifts, you can't use either past behavior or even what current policy is to predict what another country is going to do in the future. For that, you need a framework or a mental map. In other words, a theory that identifies and explains how states will behave in different circumstances. Defensive realism emphasizes the limits to power and ambition and explains why neither the United States nor China can defeat the other in a decisive manner. It also suggests that American fears of Chinese hegemony in Asia, while they're not zero, are probably exaggerated. Economic liberalism emphasizes the pacifying effects of close economic ties. Although they don't prevent conflict and war, they do give states powerful incentives to keep their competition within bounds. You put those two together, you have a recipe for a fairly stable competition and a reduced risk of war. In one sense, the analysis in this chapter made me somewhat more optimistic because it helped me see that there were some feasible paths to better relations between Washington and Beijing. But on the other hand, maybe a little pessimistic because it requires each side to embrace the right theories and adopt the correct policies, and there's no guarantee that they're going to do that in the future. There are actually 2 big takeaways I would like policymakers to take from this chapter. First, they should recognize there are limits to what these 2 great countries can do to one another. We aren't going to take over China and topple the Chinese Communist Party, and they aren't going to impose communist rule on us. Coexistence isn't just desirable, it's inevitable. Second, we need to devote greater effort to identifying areas where we can cooperate, including agreeing on what we aren't going to do to each other, finding areas where we can both benefit if we adjust our behavior, such as arms control or trade relations, and finally, areas where we will defend our interests independently, but without trying to gain a unilateral advantage over each other. A scheme like this won't end the competition, but it would keep it on a safer path.